Careful with the front wing, you've taken some minor damage.
And welcome back to the Hot Lap, where we are talking F1 2024 review. Yep, it came out on May the 31st, so literally the other day. I had it bought for me by my wonderful fiance for my birthday. So yes, this is my gameplay footage. I have been playing it. I'm not particularly great at it, let's be fair. Hands up. Not particularly great, but as you know, you can have the best graphics. You can have the best handling, you could have the best presentation, the best gimmicks. However, an F1 game lives and dies essentially on its handling. Yeah, so let's get into the handling of F1 2024. And kind of like Marmite or Vegemite for our Australian cousins, you're either going to love it or hate it. Now, if you found the last two games are really hard with the handling, that's F1 22 and F1 23, you may well like it. A lot of people have been suggesting it's more casual friendly. Some have said it's even more arcadey than years past, more forgiving, more going over the bumps, more keeping between the more keeping between the lines, more battles, and more overtakes. Obviously, unlike what you've just seen there, essentially. So, the handling, what does it feel like? Well, if you haven't played it, it's kind of pointy. It's probably the best way I can really say. It's when you turn in, it's like you've got absolute abundance of grip in the car. So significant, in fact, that you don't really get hardly any understeer unless you particularly really purposely set the car up for that understeer. Now, in terms of oversteer, it doesn't really even feel like that, and you can ride the curbs any which way you want, which is really great for things like Monza, Imola and Monaco. Now, I know it is not really for the hardcore. There's a lot of the esports crowd, a lot of the F1 YouTubers that have been quite negative about the handling, and I can understand. There could be, I mean, you could suggest that the handling has been made very much with a controller in view rather than the wheel. And the wheels, apparently, when you're setting up your wheel, they have some fairly extreme settings, let's say. However, the game is also, I think, really solid in the wet. And I think compared to the last few years, it does feel like the science going on between the wheels, the tyres and the track, it does feel a bit different. It almost feels more wet, if you for want of a better expression. And I like the handling because I found it easier. I found the game easier, and also the AI, albeit is not as aggressive as they have been in the past, which once again is a plus thing. However, I can hear what some people are saying, and this will be the hardcore, the top 10% elite at F1 2024. They'll be like, well, we need to keep. They're the ones that keep this game alive, so to speak. So long after the casuals are gone, they're on to their next game, they are the ones that they're going to keep playing. They're the ones on Twitch, they're the ones on YouTube, they're the ones we watch and keep this game alive. And they aren't particularly happy. I completely understand. So maybe Codemasters is going to come up with a plan, like some kind of patch. They've said they are aware of the somewhat bizarre handling that F1 24 has. However, it does lead to good racing, and as I mentioned, the AI are not as aggressive as they have been in the past. And this was on, like, not the hardest setting in the world, but a fairly difficult setting. And as you can see here, we're about to go past Leclerc. We do the dummy into Stowe in the wet. We are Lewis Hamilton in the rain. Go around the outside here. You can see the indicator there. And in the past, sometimes the AI would absolutely have me off, and somewhat nicely, let's say, they really haven't. However, there are also crashes in this game. The crashes are as good as they were last year, if I'm honest. No massive updates on the on the crashes, basically. I mean, here we go. Here's me playing as Lance Stroll. Fairly realistic scenario here, because there we go. Lance Stroll goes in the wall, and then you can see the absolute chaos. The absolute chaos that poor Lance leaves behind. Yeah, it's not particularly great, is it? No. Most certainly not. Yeah, poor Lance. So next up is, let's get into this, shall we? The presentation. And that's quite important. Yes, it's not as important as the handling, so to speak, but all the presentation is there. I mean, as you can see, it's hasn't changed really compared to last year. It's got your TV, it's got your TV graphics. It's got, as you can hear, Crufty. It's got Anthony Davidson in the background. Yes, it looks like Monaco. It looks like the Monaco we just watched, which was won by Charles Leclerc, incidentally. And yeah, it's by the by, hasn't really changed that much, if I'm honest. It's fairly average is the presentation. It's there to do its thing. So from presentation, the menus look really nice as well, which we'll get into a bit when we look at some of the other options. But as you would expect from most EA titles, it looks nice. It has a shiny polish, and yeah, but not that much has changed over the last couple of years since EA bought it. And even before then, it's kind of like meh, if I'm honest. But from presentation to the graphics, let's talk about those graphics, shall we? No, so let's go back, for example, to this is Austria again with Mr. Norris. The graphics haven't really changed much compared to the last year, and this is something that there's a bit of screen tearing, for example, in the replays, which was meh. You know, you kind of expect it, unfortunately, nowadays, because there's going to be a patch out to fix it at some point. However, when it comes to the graphics, when I've compared it to this is the PS5 version, right, to the PS4 version. Yes, the PS5 does look nicer. Yes, the Xbox Series S does look nicer. However, it doesn't look next gen nicer. Now, bear with me. Both the PS4 and the PS5 editions look good. Yeah, absolutely they do. However, they don't look amazing compared to their previous counterparts, which is, for me, kind of like a bit disappointing. Now, I'm wondering, is that in part because of their Ego engine? Because this engine now, albeit very good, very solid, is this Ego engine getting old? And once again, you can bring it back to the handling, where they've claimed that this is all new, all better, this all new handling, etc. I don't really think it is. It's still the same handling model. They've just tweaked it a bit, and they've changed it a bit. Yeah. So underwhelming, I think, are the graphics, because they haven't changed much. And when you want to look at the PS4 version, it just looks a tiny bit more faded out. Yeah, there's not as many lighting effects, but from the naked eye, unless you put the two together, some people might not even be able to tell. But yeah, so I think disappointing. I think I think that is, but yeah, well, there you go. But talking about the graphics and the presentation and all the new stuff that is going on, and this is it. Obviously, this is the multiplayer. You got Grand Prix, time trial, etc. You've got F1 Live, F1 World, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, makes me sick, but. You do have the career, and it's the career mode that has changed a lot of things. Why? Well, simply because in the career mode, you can now be any driver you want, including legends, including your Ayrton Senna, your Nigel Mansell, even James Hunt. I think if you got the pre-order, you've also got Jacques Villeneuve's available, Michael Schumacher, Mark Webber. Sadly, no David Coulthard, which I was disappointed at, but. The career mode has been, they say it's been revamped. I think reworked, retouched is probably a better thing. Contracts are now slightly different. You can have these secret contract talks where teams will, you'll make a connection with a team almost like behind the scenes away from your team. Fingers crossed they don't find out. Otherwise, your reputation with your current team will be going down, kind of like the whole Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes, Ferrari scenario, for example. But I think it is a nice refresh. Your ability points, your reputation goes up and down, and it does mean more now when it comes to the contract rules. And they've not really redone the R&D, but changed the way you do it as compared to last year. But it's not the massive revamp. It's not the massive revamp that Codemasters wants you to believe, sadly. But yeah, I mean, this is going into the F1 career, and you can start even with Formula 2. And the amazing thing about that, you can have Ayrton Senna or Nigel Mansell in a Formula 2 car, believe it or not, which is absolutely epic. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the weird sound. This is Austria again, and the sound is really, really strange. Bear with me on this, because as you can see, if you can hear it with the weird sound, I've put it up quite a lot. Yeah, I've dialed it down. I'm going to dial it up. And as you can hear, it's like not that many cars are going by, and the audio seems to be just on your car, which I find really, really strange. I'm like, what's going on? That is really weird, and that's something I think they need to patch out. For me, that's absolutely a bug. Yeah, hands down, a really strange, bizarre bug. But as you can see, I mean, the replays, yeah, they're there. They got the TV. They got pretty much the TV cameras. They look really good. The cars look really good. Sometimes there's a bit of tearing. Sometimes I think, what is it, in Bahrain, when I looked at one of the replays, it almost looked like, for that split second, there was rain on the track, but obviously in Bahrain it wasn't, and it carried on as normal. I'm not really going to give it any points. Would I recommend F1 2024? Absolutely, I would. I think it is a really good game if you are, if you love Formula 1. If you like Formula 1 and you like your F1 games and you sit there and watch every race, yes, I think you're going to enjoy it, with a few caveats with the handling, depending how hardcore you are. I expect Codemasters to patch that out, though. So I would recommend it if you are into your F1. As a racing game, if you just fancy a new racing game and you've already got the older one, I'd probably stick with that. It's not the best racing game on either the PlayStation or the Xbox. I think Forza, if you just want a racing game, I think Forza and Gran Turismo probably do it better. If you want a pure sim, then you're looking at things like Assetto Corsa, Competizione, or even Project Cars 2, which is on the previous gens, which maybe do a better job at pure sim racing, because this is kind of like Simcade, as people, have suggested. Anyway, this has been the Hot Lap. If you like what you see, please give us a subscribe. We'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much. I'm still here.